Well, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel and happy Mother New Year. I don't know, this year just feels different. 2025, she wasn't getting, but 2026 feels a little bit different. To start off the new year, I wanted to talk about all the books that I read in 2025. Reading has really become one of my favorite feel-good hobbies. I've even joined a book club. Like, that's how deep it's gotten for me. One thing about me, I love to yap about books. I thought this would be a fun first video for my channel. I read 20 books this year and I want to do this video a little bit differently. I'm going to read y'all my Fable review and then my rating, and I'm not going to give you too much more other than that. I want to see how my rating and my review would influence or de-influence you to read a book because I read a lot of good books this year, but I also read a lot of not so good books this year, some of which that are very popular on Book Talk and just in the book world in general. So what I'm going to do is just go from January to December and just go book by book. So let's go ahead and jump into our January reads of 2025. So starting off with Miss Kennedy Ryan, I read When You Are Mine. I rated it 3 stars. Actually, I rated it 3.2 stars. I'm reading my reviews off of the phone, so that's why I'll be looking down. Was I the only one who wasn't feeling Walsh's behavior? His spoiled silver spoon side trickled over into his love life, because why in the hell would he continue to pursue someone he can't have? Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, question mark. Every move just felt careless and extremely selfish as a whole. It was cool, just be prepared to be shocked and amazed at the audacity from the characters. Yeah, so this book was a romance. This romance was very forbidden. It was giving forbidden romance. It's giving you can't have her, but you want her real bad. Some of the tags that I have are strong relationships, a realistic setting, and beautifully written. I do love Kennedy Ryan's writing style. At the time, it was my 3rd Kennedy Ryan book, but I've read another one since then. So book number 2, we have The Art of Scandal, and I rated this one 4 stars. Okay. I really enjoyed the dynamic of Nathan and Rachel. You could definitely feel their undeniable chemistry through the writing. The plot was a bit predictable, but I wasn't too mad at it. I was still satisfied with how things wrapped up towards the end. Definitely recommend if you are looking for an untraditional love story with lots of layers. There was quite a bit of cheating involved in this book. Also, there is a age gap situation going on. Some of the tags that I have are for characters, diverse representation and relatable. Plot, predictable but satisfying. Setting, forgettable. Interesting. Writing style, flowery and lush. So the first book that I read in February was Honey and Spice, and I rated this a 3.2 stars. Pros: I enjoyed the lightheartedness of the book. It definitely took me back to my own college days and the craziness of navigating life, friends, and relationships. Cons: I feel like the writing was too wordy at the wrong times. I got lost in so much fluff, which made everything feel very drawn out. The plot was up and down. There were certain parts that I really liked and parts that I really disliked, which was quite annoying, so I took frequent breaks. I wish we got more background on the characters earlier in the book so we could make sense of their choices later on, which added to the annoyance for me. Lastly, I appreciate the author leaning into Caribbean/African culture within the story, but I do feel like it got a bit too stereotypical at times, and this is coming from someone who is Caribbean. Some of the tags that I have for characters, I have inconsistent, limited character growth, and minor characters stand out. Plot, I have confusing and uneven pacing. Setting, I said setting fits the story. Writing style takes getting used to. These children got on my nerves so bad. It was a couple of times I had to put this book down. What are we doing here? It was like when she had me, she had me. When she lost me, she lost me. The next book that I read was Kindred by Octavia Butler. This was my first Octavia Butler book. Wow, I'm a fan. I was blown away by this woman's mind. They need to study her brain, for real. I rated this 4.5 stars. This was my first Octavia Butler read, and I'm so impressed by the entirety of this book. The story brings up lots of difficult themes around the cruelty of slavery and makes you dig deep to ask yourself, what would I do if this was my reality? Could you really make those tough decisions many of the characters had to make for themselves and the people they love? I realize it's so easy to say what you would do in any situation until you're actually living it, and boy, did Dana learn that too. Characters, I have memorable, relatable, strong villain. Plot, fast-paced, suspenseful, twisty, unpredictable. Setting, gritty and otherworldly. So if you don't know about Kindred, this book is sci-fi-ish. It is based in, I think, the early 90s, and it involves someone going back in time. This is definitely a must read. If you're new to Octavia Butler, this is a good first read of Octavia Butler because, baby, everything else, you're gonna be clutching your pearls. The first book that I read in March was The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I believe. This was a very popular book. And this was a book club book for me. I rated this book 2.5 stars. I did not like this book. This book had a lot going on and not in a good way. I gave it one sentence and an emoji. For characters, I have flats, limited character growth, and for the plot, I have confusing. I love a mystery, but sometimes the authors be doing too much. I'm not gonna lie. The authors be trying to do too much and try to confuse you too goddamn much. This had to do with a character who people were very, very scared of at one point because of something that they did. Someone ended up having to be around this person, and then they uncovered this whole story and secrets and lies and all of these things. The next book that I read was called Perfect Peace by Daniel Black. I think this might be my only 5-star rated book of 2025. My favorite book of 2025. Like, I adored this book, even though it was heavy. It was heavy. It was a heavy one, y'all. I enjoyed this book a lot, even though it was a heavy read at times. This story truly altered how I view gender and sexuality in the African American community. Great story. Straight to the point, babe. I was gagged. I thought about it for days on end. For the characters, I have memorable, strong relationships, strong villain. Impact, I have captivating, disturbing, thought-provoking. And for structure, I have easy to follow. And then writing style, I put easy to read and straightforward. This book involves a mother attempting to pass their child as another gender. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I highly recommend this book. I think everybody should read it. On to the next. Now we are in May. The next book I read was called Yoke, and this was another book club read for me. I rated this one a 3.75. This was our book club pick for AAPI month, and I'm very impressed. I found the main characters very layered and quite hilarious. I also really enjoyed how the author sprinkled in tidbits of Asian/Korean culture within the story. I didn't expect to learn as much as I did, all while seeing similar themes within my own culture as far as family dynamics and relationships. If you are looking for a lighthearted yet moving story that'll keep you highly entertained from beginning to end, I definitely recommend. For characters, I have strong relationships. Impact, I have educational and moving. Setting, I have realistic, and setting fits the story. And for writing style, I have funny. This book was definitely something out of my comfort zone. This book is about sisters who don't necessarily get along. One of the sisters gets really sick, and they pretty much have to rely on each other when they don't want to. Yeah, it was very lighthearted, very cute. My second book in May was Sky Full of Elephants. I rated this book 2.5 stars. And I didn't even leave a review. That's how bad I hated this book, y'all. Oh my gosh. The only tags that I have for this book is characters, flat, and limited character growth. Y'all, this did not do it for me and actually pissed me off. If you don't know what Sky Full of Elephants is basically a story where something happens to a group of people that changes the trajectory of the world. It was just too much opportunity missed for me. You know what I'm saying? So June, we started to get a little spicy. The first book that I read was In Covenant with Ezra. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. And the review says, this one is for my open-minded folk who don't mind a complex story that'll have you saying WTF the entire time. I took a liking to the characters/dynamics and thought the storyline was really intriguing. I enjoyed it. For characters, I have diverse representation. In writing style, I have flowery and lush. This is the first part of a 3-part series. This is for my girls that like spice. Y'all know when people be like, oh, this book is spicy, but you read it and it's like, no, this is not spicy. This is the book that is actually spicy. The premise of the story is there is an arrangement that happens between two strangers. One of the strangers has a very particular way they like to handle their love life. Can't even really say love life. Their partners. They are also a pastor. And I'm going to leave it there. The next book that I read was Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This is also a very popular book talk book. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. This book reminded me of the show You. Surprisingly, it wasn't as predictable as I thought, and it was a pretty easy read, just the palate cleanser I was looking for. For the plot, I put suspenseful, setting, bleak, writing style, easy to read. So this book is about a newlywed couple that are like trapped in a snowstorm, and they get trapped in this house of a deceased person, and all hell broke loose. In July, the first book that I read was Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan, which was the third book released in the Skyland series. I read the other two. The first one is still my favorite, but I did rate this one 4 stars out of 5 stars. I enjoyed the book overall and found myself really engaged with certain parts of the story. Outside of that, I found that the last 2 books leaned a bit too much in on those specific tropes and themes, which interrupted the flow of the story at times. The super duper extra emphasis on Hendrix being a rich auntie or plus size felt forced in certain areas when some of the detail wasn't needed anymore. Either way, it's always nice to read about a Black woman being loved correctly, so for that, it gets 4 stars. Period. For characters, I have memorable, plot, predictable but satisfying, setting fits the story, writing style, beautifully written. She's kind of like doing love on her own terms. She doesn't really want to be married. She's childless by choice. You know, she a little thicker. She's very confident, got her own money. I don't know. I like this as the wrap up of the Skyland series. If you are new to Kennedy Ryan, I would definitely go ahead and read Can't Get Enough, because that book, one of my favorite romance books, period. The next book in July, I have The Housemaid. This is another popular Frida McFadden book, and the movie was coming out, so I wanted to read it. The movie's out already and I haven't seen it. I wasn't ready for those plot twists. Characters, I have memorable. Impact, I have engaging. Plot, clever plotting. Writing style, easy to read and engaging. There's a well-off couple that hires a new housemaid. The wife and the husband, they're very creepy. The next book that I have for September, I have Love You to Death. I gave this book 2.75 stars. My review says, oh my gosh, I really didn't like this book. The story was messy in a way that got annoying at times, especially with the constant introduction of new characters, even all the way till the end. I thought this would give One of Them Days meets Set It Off in the best way possible, but it was actually the worst way possible. It had potential, but wasn't executed well in my opinion. For characters, I have limited character growth and unlikable. Plot, I have repetitive and uneven pacing. In writing style, I have clear but uninspired. Y'all, I really did not enjoy this book at all, and I really wanted to because it had a cute plot. There are 2 girls who are best friends, and they're just no good for each other. They also have really bad luck with each other. So they're trying to navigate their lives and right some wrongs, and the wrongs just keep getting wronger. So now we're in October, and the next book that I read, this was a book club book. All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I'm a fan. I rated this book 4.75 stars. And the review says, this story had me in a chokehold from beginning to end. This is my first Cosby book, and boy, this man can write his ass off. I enjoyed the many similes and metaphors sprinkled throughout the story that really made it come to life. I also imagine Titus to be fine as hell. The tags, I have characters as likable, memorable, multi-layered. Plot, action-packed, addictive, gripping / exciting. Steady pacing, suspenseful, twisty. Setting, I have gritty and historical. In writing style, I have beautifully written and descriptive. All the Sinners Bleed was a story based in an all majority white town, and they have their first Black sheriff. Some stuff goes down, some people start going missing, and yeah. Next book I read, now we're in November, December, baby. I had to start to try to reach my goal, so I was reading a lot in those last 2 months. The first book in November that I read was Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, and I rated this 4.75 stars. This is my second Octavia Butler book, and I just can't get over the brilliance of this woman's mind. This book, starting off in the future, being 2025 and 2027, already had me shook. But then the state of the world she wrote about is so eerily close to what's currently happening now. I enjoyed the layers of the characters and the journey of the expansion of their small society amongst the chaos of the world. It involved a lot of strategy, trust, within others, and a hell of a lot of teamwork. The story is gritty, sad, but also inspiring. Highly recommend. For characters, I have diverse representation, multi-layered, relatable. For plot, I have action-packed and addictive. For setting, I have dark and gritty. And for writing style, I have straightforward. Baby, first page, she dropped me right in the middle of what's going on. She gets straight to business. And what happens in Parable is the state of the world is jacked up. And when I say jacked up, I mean jacked up. Like, there are a group of people that are hiding and have built a society within a gated community to stay away from a certain group of people. This book is so ahead of its time. It's actually insane. And like I said, the book starts in 2025, and this book was written decades ago. It's scary. This lady is scary, y'all. Octavia Butler, she kind of scary. She kind of spooks me out, but I love her. I love her to death. Next book I have is The Midnight Library. This was a book club book. I rated this 3.75 stars. And I wrote a self-help book for all the self-help book haters like myself. I enjoyed the premise of the story and really felt inspired by some of the nuggets shared along the way. My only gripe is that some aspects did feel a bit repetitive and drawn out towards the middle to the end of the book, but enjoyable nonetheless. Impact, I have moving, persuasive. Structure, I have fragmented. Writing style, I have lyrical. So with The Midnight Library, what happens is there is a girl who is having the worst luck, and she's at her wit's end, and she's like, I don't want to be here anymore. But in the midst of her making that decision, there is let's call it like a void in time and space between her life and afterlife, and it's a library. And I really did enjoy this book, and it really helped me change my perspective on my own life. That's why I said it's like a self-help book, like, without it being a self-help book. The next book that I read, this was my first and only nonfiction book of the year, and it was When Crack Was King by Donovan X Ramsey. And I gave this book 4.75 stars. My review says, when people say everything is rooted in racism, this is what they mean. I knew very loosely about the rise and effects of the crack epidemic, but this book sent me into a rabbit hole of uncovering devastating truth. When Crack Was King single-handedly unveiled the layers of traps, exploitation, and destruction that was dropped on the Black community like a bomb from one coast to the next. The facts shared, coupled with real stories of only just those few people, made everything all too real. A must read. Impact, moving, thought-provoking, research, evidence-based, in-depth analysis, and structure, cohesive. This book was very eye-opening for me. I did not know how deep that got. And so the story follows about 4 or 5 like real life people who were single-handedly, like, their lives were single-handedly affected by crack. We're talking about people that were users, people whose family members were users, people that actually sold the crack. It just takes you along on their journey, and they're telling you exactly what happened and how they got to where they are currently, and how the crack itself affected their lives one way or the other. All right, so now we are in December. So these were my last 3 books of the year. The first book that I read in December was The Nickel Boys. I rated it a 3.5, I think that is 3.5. I did enjoy the story and the cultural aspects of the story being rooted in the South, but I found myself getting confused at some points of the story due to the writing style and approach. I did have to read chapters multiple times to grasp and wrap my head around what was actually happening at certain points. On top of that, I felt like the book should have been a bit longer to flesh out more details, especially towards the end. The ending of the book felt cramped for me. And I actually didn't put any tags on this book. It's about the Nickel Academy, which was a boys' like camp situation literally ended up having to get shut down because of all of the terrible things that were happening to the boys that were getting sent there for disciplinary things. It wasn't a terrible book, it was short, so if you're looking for like a short read historical fiction, then this could be a good one to add to your TBR. For the next book I read is In Love with Ezra, which is book 2 of the Love Unaccounted series. I rated this one pretty high. This is a 4.75. The reason why I'm guesstimating is because it doesn't tell me exactly what point. It only gives me like the shaded stars in. Book 2 was a strong follow-up to In Covenant with Ezra, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And dare I say, I enjoyed this one even more. Ezra and Lex do nothing but stress me out, but in the best way possible. Messy and relatable in all the unconventional ways. Book 2 constantly had me saying WTF. Characters, I have memorable, multi-layered, relatable. Plot, I have addictive, unpredictable. And for setting, I have picturesque. Basically, this story is, it's a continuation of the situation, okay? And things get spicier. Things get crazier. There's a third one, so I will definitely be reading that third one this year. So I can go ahead and finish this series off, because this series does nothing but stress me out. The last book that I read in 2025, I needed something quick. I needed something easy. And baby, John Mars, he gonna do it for me every single time. So I had this book on my TBR for a minute because I love John Mars. I read The One and I like the way he gets down. So I picked up The Passengers. I rated this one a 3.2, 3.3. So in my review, I put self-driving cars, AI, and hackers, ... Things get twisty, but a tad bit too twisty at the end. It wasn't terrible, but not sure if I'd recommend. Oh, dang. And the reason why I say that is because John Mars is such a good writer. I would say maybe this isn't a good first John Mars book. I would say The Family Experiment, which is also still on my TBR, and The One was really good. I also have Good Samaritan on my TBR. So John Mars writes a lot of sci-fi-ish, but sci-fi adjacent stories. Gives a lot of Black Mirror vibe. In this particular story, the UK has banned regular cars, and now they're only self-driving cars. And it just goes down a real deep rabbit hole. Those were my 20 books of 2025. I'm excited about reading more books and getting into different genres and different authors this year. Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate you if you made it this far. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all in my next one. Bye.